Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Now, I am a little bit late to the party, in terms of, well, content for my channel, and also in terms of the new version of Train Simulator, which we have now reached, basically a copy-paste number. It's Train Simulator 2020. So this is the one that will follow us through from this month of this year through to this month next year. Which hopefully we'll see some more improvements like the ones that have been brought to this version, and I will run you through the changes that have been made for this year's revision. So on the front of it, it is still using the same graphics engine. It's still using all the same tools you're familiar with, and as we go through the trailer, I will be adding a little bit more content and images just to show you what they have published for in terms of content, like any news, any updates, things like that. So to start you off, the first thing is that they've slightly switched up the basic routes that you get with the game. So I believe last time it was the South Wales coastal line with the Voyager, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, please do correct me. But the thing about these updates is that it doesn't tell you the previous version because it basically just replaces its predecessor. On Steam, it still has the same app ID, so you can't see exactly what changed. And with the amount of news that they publish weekly and monthly, it would take me at least a few days of solid digging through, just try and find out exactly what came with it. So again, you've still got one route from the three main countries that are present within the game. So that is one from Germany, I believe, one from America, and of course one from the UK. Now you can get the various versions, the European version, the US version, and the UK version, all with differing pieces of content. They will package just a little bit more DLC just to add to the base game itself. But from a base perspective, those are the three routes that you will get. So you get Nuremberg to Regensburg, Bahn, and that will also include the DB BR440 or the BR442. And then you have, for a freight duty, you have a BR185. So, very common rolling stock seen about those lines. Then we move on to the American side of it. So we've got the American branch lines of Norfolk Southern, the N line, if any of you around there are familiar with that, any of my American viewers, which is around North Carolina, from what I can depict from this. So you get command of two diesel locomotives, the GP38-2 or the GP40-2, which are two very common locomotives for the American Railroad. So basically, you'll be doing a lot of freight duties. Doesn't look like there's much opportunity for passenger duties on that line, but I may be mistaken. Maybe a few small commuter trains from town to town. So we'll see how that is as well. And then, last but not least, we of course move to the British line, which is a South-Western Main Line. So that is a link to key shipping ports along the British southern coastline, as you didn't already guess from the title of it, Southern West Main Line. So this one is more along the lines of passenger duties. You get command of two EMUs, which are third rail powered, which are the BR class 444s and the 450s as well. You will get a few of the base freight locomotives as well for the UK, such as the 47 and I believe 37 as well can be in there sometimes. You may get a few other base locomotives as well. So the main changes from last year's revision to this year is that you have a lot more visual control. Um, Again, they've updated the Train Sim Academy. You've still got the building tools, and you still have all the available pieces of DLC, all of which are compatible. I have spoke about how some of them should be updated just to current spec, but that is something that I've touched on and I won't touch on in this. Again, you get the 32-bit and 64-bit versions with this. So no matter what system you're running now, it can run smoother. Not to say that it won't crash if you tab out, which I've experienced. So basically, if you're running Train Simulator, just don't tab out if you've got two screens, like myself. So yeah, the main focus behind Train Sim 2020 is the visual control. So what that means is you control the coloring of the game itself, like how bright you want it to be, the depth of field as well. You can change that, which I've found to be quite useful, especially in some confined cabs. Now, although it may be more realistic to have a certain viewpoint, if you're on a screen, it's a little bit harder to just focus on like trying to keep everything in shape. Especially if you've got multiple things to do. So I think the field of view, not so much the slider because you do get that on the mouse wheel on PC. I'm not sure about the Xbox, PlayStation 4, or if you use PC with a controller. But that is the field of view is all able to be altered in terms of like a zoom in feature as standard using the mouse wheel. But in this you can alter it a little bit more, so you do get a little bit more of a pulled back view if you want. Which I've chosen to do just so I can see a little bit more of exactly what I'm doing, seeing a lot more of the controls, and with a lot more of the content that's been out, especially with some of the more heavily scripted pieces of DLC from developers such as Smokebox with their 844, and they're doing the person from Smokebox is currently doing the Big Boy as well. They're also known for the Union Pacific and Central Pacific classic steam trains like Jupiter. I can't remember its corresponding one for the other rail operator at this moment. That just shows how bad I am at remembering every other piece of rail history other than my own. But yeah, so it, it's a lot better with the depth of field. They have said that it is more dynamic, and I do agree with that. And you can also add adaptive bloom as well. So if you do want certain pictures, they have added a lot more. So you can make, if any of you make out there make content as well, then you can absolutely get certain feels for it, especially in terms of a thumbnail for what you want, because they do have filters now as well. So they've got ambient occlusion, which is basically shadowing, which is done by the in-game lighting, but you can add the ambient occlusion just for a little bit of extra depth on those shadows, which does help a little bit, especially with some flat textures. So that's pretty nice. Again, you got the depth of field, and then you've got the range of filters, which include vignettes, sepia, black and white, and you do get a few more as well. I haven't had time to fully run through them. I quickly cycled through them and just try and have a look. But yeah, so that's really the main. Those are really the main differences between that at the minute. Now, in terms of content, there are quite a few pieces of content coming out. I do apologize for any clicking that you may hear and typing, purely because I'm using a new microphone on my headset. It's been done by Blue, so who do like the Yeti mic. So I'm just giving that a go this time and see if the quality improves, needs a bit changing, and see how I can alter my other microphone as well as this, at the time of recording, there is currently a sale going on Steam where you can get quite a few pieces of Steam DLC um, at around at least 50%. Don't think I've seen any for less than 50%. It is some of the older content, I will say that. I will disclaim that right now. There's a couple at 40%, but that's not too bad. It just depends on what you want, really. So if there's any like specific ones jumping out, then now would probably be a good time to jump on that and get some extra locomotives running around in your collection. A couple of the routes are on sale as well. Again, some of the older ones, but even so, I have said this before. The quality sometimes is a bit questionable for the price. So, I mean, it's always better to get it on sale anyway, just so you get the best. You always get the best deal because then you can get a few things as well. Just try and add to the collection, as well as a lot of third party is requiring quite a bit of DLC from that end as well. So, like Armstrong Power has their scenario packs. I know DB Simulation, who they've done freeware routes as well, but they have done some payware routes where you do need a little bit of extra stock. And you do, of course, you do have Just Trains um, as well as Caledonia Works. They're working in conjunction with Digital Traction, who they've just released one of their newest products. I can't remember what it is. But it is another steam locomotive. The next one they're working on is at least the one that I've been keeping my ear to the ground to is the P2. So a digital version of the one they're currently building in Darlington. So I can't wait for that. And you can be sure that when that comes out, I'll be getting a video out as soon as I can. Um, Lastly, I really want to wrap up this kind of shortened video as just to explain where I've been because I've been off, basically offline. I've been replying to comments and things like that for the time I have been away from making content. I have my own reasons. People may call them excuses, but um, judge what you will. I honestly, it's even if you do judge, I won't care because it's something that I need to deal with. So I do apologize for the extreme lack of content that is now coming out probably like once a year. Probably the worst uploading YouTuber in the world. Um, but yeah, I've had certain difficulties with my mental condition. I won't say exactly what because I think that's something that I personally need to keep to myself and people I have close to me. I am seeking help for it, so it is getting better. It's just trying to get back into a certain mindset, mind frame, trying to take a bit of stress off myself in certain aspects of my life because I need to start moving forward with that. But hopefully, I can keep making content from, well, at least a lot better than I have been. And I do appreciate that if you do enjoy my content and you have stuck around, thank you very much. I will try and get back on track very soon. I'm thinking about doing some time lapses just to um, give you like a quick run through of some of the routes that maybe I haven't covered. Um, or maybe some I have that you haven't seen in full detail. So I did enjoy doing the time lapse on the East Coast Main Line from King's Cross, and I did pick up the one from Peterborough to York, the modern version of that as well, by Creative Rail because that's now on Steam as well. Absolutely fantastic. If you want to, it is based around like the 70s and the 80s. But if you do want to run some modern stock on there, I think I ran like a 91 or a class 90 with a Mark III DVT. For those of you who don't know, DVT's driving van trailer. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so always keep your eye out for sales because they're the greatest way to pick it up. It's currently Oktoberfest, even though we're still in September, for about another week. But yeah, so that's where I've roughly been. I've been dealing with quite a few personal things. So I do apologize, just because I haven't been in the frame of mind to make content, which kind of sucks because it gets me down. It's like, well, I haven't done this, and it just makes me feel a bit worse sometimes. So I do apologize for that. I will be trying to get a little bit more content for a little bit more varied content as well. Just like a few bits and bats here and there, just to see what you guys are interested in. Maybe it's not just trains, maybe it's something else as well. Um, but yeah, so I'd like to thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for listening to my pandering at the end of this. But yeah, if you do have any questions about Train Sim, feel free to leave them on the comments. I will answer them to the best of my ability. I won't have every answer in the world. I'm not a developer. But yeah, I do try and keep as up to date as I can do. But yeah, so like I said, any comments, feel free to throw them down there. I will answer them as soon as I see that they're there. Or if I do find anywhere that will give you like a better answer, then I'll send you that way as well. There is a bit more model train content coming. I do have something arriving hopefully next month, which I am very happy to I will be very excited to show you guys, especially when I unbox it. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time, guys.